I was scrolling through r/rollercoasters a few weeks ago like any normal coaster enthusiast would do, and I stumbled across a rather interesting post. It was a graph of the types of coasters being constructed in the past 100 years or so. I can't show the post here because I didn't ask the original creator for permission, but it did spark an interesting point of discussion. Are extreme coasters phasing out? The simple answer is absolutely not, but there's a lot of content to explore, and the more that I think about it, the more I realize how much this industry is changing. I think there are a ton of interesting points to cover in this video, and I am super excited to share my findings with all of you guys, so I hope you enjoy this video as we answer the question, are extreme coasters phasing out? First of all, if extreme coasters are phasing out, then what is replacing them? Well, family coasters and kiddie coasters are. Of course, they are not completely replacing them. Throughout history, family and thrill coasters always outpaced the construction of extreme coasters. It only makes sense that they do because they are more affordable and way easier to build. However, the ratio of extreme coasters to family coasters being built has changed drastically. From 1980 to 2010, it hasn't been any higher than like 80%. Nowadays, for every extreme coaster being built, there's 2 family coasters being built, so that's a ratio of roughly 200%. So extreme coasters are not dying, but the amount of family coasters being constructed has been rampant. To prove my point further, think about what mainstream coasters have opened up in the US this year. It mainly is family coasters and thrill coasters. You think of rides like Big Bear Mountain, the Skyline family coasters, Dark Coaster, Arctic Rescue, Primordial, Tron, Wild Mouse, and Zambezi Zinger. All of these rides are not extreme coasters by RCDB standards, though I do think Tron and Zambezi Zinger might be a little too intense to call a family coaster. But when you look at the impactful extreme coasters that have been built in the US this year, you have things like Air Force One, Wildcat's Revenge, Pipeline, and Mautagani. It's a lot less than you think. So when I cut out all the fluff, all the small FEC openings and crappy rides like Aquaman and Power Splash, you can see how much family coasters have outpaced extreme coasters solely in terms of meaningful additions. And if you are still not convinced, let me show you what is planned on being built in 2024, solely looking at meaningful additions. For family coasters, you have Good Gravy, Bobcat, Penguin Trek, Phoenix Rising, Snoopy's Soapbox Racers, Fire in the Hole, Hot Wheels Bone Shaker, and like Daddy Pig's Roller Coaster if you want to count that. If you look at extreme coasters, there's just a lot less. There's Iron Menace, Triple Loop if that even opens, Palindrome if that even opens, Circuit Breaker if that even opens, Twilmo Racer at Mattel Adventure Park, and Flash Vertical Velocity. You could add Top Thrill 2 to this list as well, but at the end of the day, it's still a redo of a ride, and a lot of the community is hating on it, though I do think it's going to be better than people say it is. There's nothing opening up next year for the extreme coaster category compared to family coasters. On the family side of things, you have 2 B&Ms, 2 Vekoma Family Boomerangs, a Gravity Group Woody, and a Chance Rides family coaster. Now that's some huge names in there that are making family coasters in the US next year. And I don't mean to dishearten any of you guys, the extreme coasters being built next year are sick. We have a Vekoma Tilt Coaster, extremely quirky Gerstlauer, and the first Vekoma Super Boomerang to make its ways overseas. It's by no means a bad year. The point that I'm trying to communicate is that construction of meaningful family coasters is outpacing the construction of meaningful extreme coasters. And honestly, I don't think this is necessarily a bad change. Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure and Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind are some of the best roller coasters on the planet, period, and you can't change my mind on that. And then you have things like How to Train Your Dragon being built. There's really nothing bad coming out of this. It's just a trend that's happening in the industry right now. Now, why is this trend happening? Well, first of all, we have Salim Bassoul as CEO of Six Flags, or should I say ex-CEO of Six Flags. His approach on the regional park business model had a heavy emphasis on bringing families into the parks. The way he would achieve this is by upping prices and making the overall experience better, quote unquote better. He invested into a whole bunch of family coasters which are just now opening at the end of the season, and he built a dive coaster with a well thought out storyline, theme, and queue line. I'm not complaining with what is happening here. As for other companies, SeaWorld has just been looking to build more family coasters in their parks. That makes sense for Dark Coaster and Arctic Rescue. For Penguin Truck, it only makes sense that SeaWorld Orlando builds a family coaster after Icebreaker was a bit too extreme. And Disney and Universal, well, they're Disney and Universal and will always build family rides. I just feel like there are a lot of parks with an insane amount of extreme coasters that are lacking in the family department. You point to parks like Holiday World and Kings Island who are filling those gaps in with Vekoma Family Boomerangs next year. This makes sense from a park's perspective. You already poured so much money into entertaining the adrenaline seekers, so just put a tad bit less cash into satisfying the younger crowds and thus bring in more families. It makes a lot of sense. Big Bear Mountain at Dollywood was a hit, and it proves that this business model does work. And sometimes the investments cost the same as much as extreme coasters. If you look at Phoenix Rising being built next year, it's not any cheaper than a new gen Vekoma or like maybe an Intamin Blitz, but it will be a super solid investment and bring in tons of new guests. It makes so much sense to cater towards the family audiences. In most cases, it's cheaper and it has proven to work out well. Now, of course, this can't be said across the world. When you look at Europe, it follows very similar trends to the US. A lot of family coasters are being built. I'm not going to dive into it too much, but there was a huge Vekoma family boomerang craze across a lot of European parks for the past couple of years, and they're all solid installations. But Europe is also having a pretty crazy year this year with the redo of Nemesis, Voltron, and Hyperia, and there's some really cool projects coming out like a mock extreme spinner at Holiday World. And when you look at countries like China, they don't build a lot of meaningful family coasters. In fact, they do the opposite. They built a lot of extreme coasters. They add crazy installation year after year. It's one of the reasons why they are the best countries for coasters. They are where the US was 20 years ago when Six Flags and Cedar Fair was in its peak. So ultimately, is this a bad thing? No. Is this a good thing? Not really. It's just a fact in the current state of the industry, specifically in the US. I love family coasters when they're done well, and extreme coasters are not going anywhere. In fact, this was expected. The US built so many extreme coasters in the past 20 years that the parks just have enough of them now. The next logical step is to bring in families. It is to build these family coasters, and it will make them money. I mean, look at Holiday World. That is a perfect encapsulation of what I'm trying to say. Holiday World has done a great job at building their extreme coaster lineup, and the current state of the lineup has enough thrill rides. They really need a family coaster, and they're getting exactly what they need. So while I know Good Gravy has become a meme, there's a lot to learn from what Holiday World is doing. The last point in the video is that family coasters are good. Like, really good. Like, I don't have any problem at all with getting these additions. Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind sits at number 2 in my rankings, and I know it's not ranked that high for all of you guys, I'm just super quirky, but it's a complete experience that I truly enjoy. A lot of these family coasters that are being constructed fall under this category. Phoenix Rising is a fully fledged out family invert with onboard audio, and if you know a single thing about me, that single thing is that I absolutely adore onboard audio. I don't know about audio for Penguin Trek, but I do know that it has a dark ride segment, and boy oh boy, don't get me started on there. And both Good Gravy and Camp Snoopy look to have a good amount of theming. Just outside of the coasters alone, these are solid additions that are solid additions. For coasters built this year, Big Bear Mountain is a complete package, and Primordial is one of the coolest coasters of the decade. Arctic Rescue has an attempt at theming. It's not good, but it's enough to satisfy my needs. And Dark Coaster also is just the bare minimum, but any coaster in the indoors is cool. The best part is that besides all this extra that is usually tied to family coasters, the coasters themselves are very good. Manufacturers like Intamin, Vekoma, Gerstlauer, Mach, and surprisingly B&M all have their own interesting takes on the family coaster genre. I feel like each manufacturer is spinning it in their own way. Intamin has a bunch of takes on their family coaster with LSM launches and their SFX model. How to Train Your Dragon looks like a world-class Intamin Blitz family coaster, and I think it might be as good as Hagrid's. Mach and Gerstlauer make some of the best family spinners in the world. The Mach Monster Spinner looks really cool in of itself, even if it's incredibly short. Vekoma is taking over the world with their Vekoma family boomerangs, and they have the capability to be themed well, which is a huge plus. Vekoma also has other insane technical feats like Guardians, and to be honest, Wandering Oaken's Sliding Slice is the best Vekoma Junior coaster in the entire world, and that's opening up in 2 weeks. I don't think anyone should be complaining about the additions next year because I am absolutely looking forward to it. So like I said, extreme coasters aren't going anywhere. We are just experiencing a down year in new additions, and there will always be more family coasters being built because they're cheaper and easier to afford. However, a lot of US parks have built a ton of extreme coasters, so it only makes sense for them to dip their feet into the family coaster market and diversify the experiences they have to offer. That's all for today's video, guys. Let me know if you agree with my decisions in the comment section down below. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, and join the Discord link in the description. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.